Hey everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. Welcome to PHLY Flyers and a very special segment today. You know, the Calder Cup playoffs. They kicked off last night with game one in the Pacific Division first round between Coachella Valley and Calgary. The puck drops on the rest of the AHL playoff series tonight and tomorrow. And we've got our Lehigh Valley Phantoms heading up to Wilkes-Barre Scranton for game one against those damn Penguins. That starts tonight. Joining us to break it all down is our very own AHL correspondent here at PHLY and the managing editor of Broad Street Hockey. It is Madeline Campbell. First, Maddie, I just got to say, thank God you took over that role for Kelly Hinkle because she was running that place into the ground. So are you? Are you jazzed up? You're covering a playoff team. I bet that must be nice. I can't imagine what that's like. Are you ready? How you feeling today?
I'm excited. It's going to be good. I realized recently that I have not covered in-person playoffs with the Flyers since my first season, and then it's just been only sadness since then.
Yeah, I mean it's. They've made it once since 2018, and we can't really even call, the 2020 bubble real. Did that really happen? So that's what it's been. But we have Calder Cup action here. At least we have AHL playoffs to talk about. Now, for the uninitiated, because I just asked you before we started rolling, I was like, wait, aren't all three games supposed to be? No, they're coming back to Lehigh. How does it work? What is the AHL playoff format for people who maybe don't follow every year?
So to make it even more complicated, every division is a little bit different because it's not a standard number of teams. I don't know. I just have to roll with it. But for the Phantoms Atlantic Division, at least, we'll keep it there. Sure. The top two teams get a first round bye in this year. It's Hershey and Charlotte. So they're going to be off for a little bit. Everybody else will play in what's effectively a 3-game play-in round. So the Phantoms finish 5th in the standings. They'll play 4th place, Wilkes-Barre, and then it's 3rd and 6th place. Providence and Springfield. I just completely blanked for a second there. So that's the best of 3 series. The next 2 series from here are going to go to best of 5, and then the 2 from then on go to best of 7, which is not confusing at all.
Hey, you just keep you just got to know your multiplication tables, I guess. Yeah. But Phantoms, they have qualified at least for this play-in. They won 36 games, put up 80 points, like you said, finished 5th in the Atlantic. Now they have this best of 3, pretty much play-in with Wilkes-Barre. Not a crazy great season for the Phantoms. We've talked about that along the way. But they won their final 3 games of the season, and they've made a lot of recent additions, really even going back to the deadline and times around there. They added Nikita Grabenkin. Alex Bump made his debut after he finished up his college season. Jett Luchanko Emil Andrae has been loaned back to the AHL. So how different is the Phantoms lineup now than it was even a few weeks ago?
Very different. I mean, it seems like they have found some combinations that they're liking finally. So like they're getting some consistency with the lines, but it's a very different look, even since they played Wilkes-Barre last. That season series, for some reason, like they played 12 games, but they were pretty condensed within the first like 2/3 of the season. So we haven't seen them since right after the trade deadline. So I think that makes for a more interesting matchup because things are looking very different suddenly.
So do you think, we've talked about the Phantoms and they've been okay under Ian LaPerriere. Do you think the additions and maybe this new look and coming in a little hot on a little winning streak, like, does that make them Calder Cup contenders, do you think? Or is this, and then they're going to play Hershey in the next round and see you later if they get past Wilkes-Barre?
I think just this whole division feels like a bit of a toss-up for me. I like the Phantoms' current lineup. They've got for the first time in I don't even know how long, like 3 legitimate scoring lines. They've been up and down in that department all season, but it seems like over the last couple of weeks, they've actually made some real positive progress. They've been looking actually pretty dynamic, which has been great to see. So I don't know that I would say that they're like for sure contenders, but like anything can happen if they get past Wilkes-Barre. Like Hershey's played a lot of games in the last couple of years. I wouldn't be surprised if they could at least make it competitive against them. So I think it's going to be interesting for sure.
How would you compare this Phantom squad, like this team? And there's, like you said, they look a little more dynamic. They obviously some potential NHL talent in the lineup that we've seen. How would you compare it to the last 2 or 3 years under LaPerriere, where they've qualified but had pretty early exits?
Yeah, I think this is the year that it feels like they should definitely take an actual real step forward. I mean, last year they made it to the second round, but it like the whole time it felt like they were playing with house money. Like they were playing well. Like I don't want to take that away from them, but it was a surprise that they were looking as good, especially against Hershey, as they were. This year, their roster is looking pretty loaded, and I know I just said like anything could happen in a playoff format like this, but like if they don't make some noise, I think it would be a legitimate disappointment considering the full complement of talent they have on their roster this year.
Outside of we'll talk plenty about the Phantoms and definitely plan on, hopefully, as if the team progresses, having you back again. But right now, who would you say are the Calder Cup favorites? Who you had to put money on it right now? Who's going to win this thing?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I like Charlotte. I think they've looked really good this year. They play just with an insane amount of pace. I would be surprised if they don't at least make a deep run.
All right. The team I once referred to as the Charlotte Checkers. The name is ridiculous. You don't have like the Philadelphia Phantoms. Like you wouldn't have the same anyway. How do the Phantoms match up with the Penguins? And is this like a real rivalry, considering what we think of at least used to be between these two teams before both kind of fell off their NHL affiliates? Is this kind of one of the premier rivalries, maybe at least in the Atlantic?
It definitely is. Like I said, they've played each other 12 times during the regular season, and a lot of these games have gotten pretty nasty. I mean, LaPerriere got ejected at one of these games because I think maybe both coaches actually, because they were just barking at each other on the bench. Like nobody likes each other in this matchup. And I think it's easy to sort of try to manufacture rivalries, especially come playoff time, but this is a legitimate, nobody wants to see the other this time around. So I think it's going to be fun to watch. But yeah, on the whole, I think it's kind of tough to get a read on this matchup. Like, if you go by the regular season series, the Phantoms were 4-8 against Wilkes-Barre, and I think they ended up with like a -12 goal differential. So that's like a little bit worse than sort of on the whole of the season. So they had some trouble against them, but the roster looks a lot different now from when we saw them last. And I mean, even last year, like the regular season matchup was sort of so-so, and then they swept them in the play-in round in 2 games. So I think they could be surprising here.
That's great to hear, and I'm real excited that it is a real rivalry. When the Phantoms were in Philly, I had season tickets growing up to them. I was at a 97 playoff game with the Bears where there was like 400 penalty minutes. I realized the AHL has changed dramatically in nearly 30 years since then. It's not quite like that anymore, but I like that there's some real tension here, that it is a rivalry and the games might get a little spicy. We talked about some of the guys who, with the NHL experience, whether it was Luchanko starting season with the Flyers, and now he's joined the Phantoms at the end. Emil Andrae kind of went back and forth all year. But we've also had some more veteran guys go up and down between the AHL and NHL. How do you think NHL recalls have affected like Ula Lixell, Rodrigo Abels, Tony Dick, Anthony Richard, everyone's favorite player here at PHLY? Do you think that has helped kind of bring this team along and give them a little more maturity than they've had in years past?
I think so. And I think it goes a long way that all of those guys have been good sports when they've been back down with the Phantoms. I think it can be kind of easy to, you get that recall, you get the taste of NHL action, and then you get sent down, and then you kind of pout. Like, I don't want to be here. I should be up with the big club. Like, this is stupid. But when they've been down, they've really embraced the roles they've been given. I mean, they all get a ton of minutes to play when they're down in the AHL. And yeah, I just have all, I think, been great leaders for the team, have been kind of a stabilizing force for like what's a pretty young roster on the whole. So yeah, they've been huge for the team.
Now, we know, again, like a lot of the prospects and the guys we've seen in the NHL over the last year or two, who might be some under-the-radar X factors for Lehigh in this first-round series or perhaps moving forward through the playoffs?
I think the big thing is going to be goaltending, which was really good for them last time around. I think that was something that really kept them alive longer in the playoffs than we might have expected. I don't know 100% who's going to be starting game one tonight, but I would not be surprised if it's Parker Gahagen, based on just how well he's been playing down the stretch. And he was good for them last year too. So I think, yeah, that's going to be an interesting one to watch, as like a guy who's 31, but he's been on kind of an insane upward trajectory in his career. And yeah, I'm sure we're all like a little bit tired about talking about goaltending around here, but it's going well for them right now, and he's been good. So
no, that's one of the things I was interested in talking about was Parker Gahagen, because last year you see him get the call up from the ECHL and kind of take over because of the Flyers' own goalie issues at the NHL level. So there's a lot of moving parts, and Parker, he's been good, it seems, in a couple of years, at least parts of 2 seasons. He had a .916 save percentage for the Phantoms, which this season, which would be, 100 points better than anyone at the NHL level. And we've seen the Cola saga kind of play out here, and I'd be surprised just looking at the numbers if it wasn't Parker Gahagen. Outside of goaltending, is there an under the radar forward defense? Is there a skater who has maybe been coming on later in the season that doesn't have the big numbers, but they've been hot lately?
I don't know. I think just a little under the radar in general. Zade Wisdom has been great through the second half of the season. It looks like he's going to be probably starting on their top line for this series. And, it's just been so amazing to see like how he's been able to rebuild his game at this level. So I think he's going to be a big factor in this matchup, especially like considering the type of game he plays. He's been getting his scoring back, which has been great, but he plays a very physical, high-paced game, which is perfect for the playoffs.
Outstanding. One last one here, Maddie. I know you're up against it. Jett Luchanko. You wrote a breakdown of him. It's up on allphly.com. If you haven't signed up to be a diehard, what the hell are you waiting for? $36 for the year, and you get stuff like breakdowns of Jett Luchanko's first few games in the AHL. Only 3 assists, I believe, in 9 games. How is he adapted to a new league, new teammates, and all of that?
I think he's been settling in pretty well. There were a few games there where they had him up on their top line, and it seemed like he was kind of struggling with those matchups. Understandably, he's 18 years old playing in the AHL. Like, that's going to be a big ask for him to hold up under those minutes. But I think when they've been able to shelter him a little bit more on that second line, especially with some veterans, which, again, they're kind of looking to do tonight, if the practice lines are any indication. But, I'm expecting him to take a little bit of a step forward in the playoffs. I mean, it's a big moment for sure. But yeah, it's been trending up for him. He hasn't been lights out. I haven't really expected him to be lights out, but he's been good, I would say.
I think we tend to forget about the age where you can't even play in the AHL unless you're 20. And here he is, the kid turned 18 in August or September. He's not even 19 years old yet. So I do think maybe we need to take a step back and go, okay, he's not tearing it up, but that doesn't mean he's a bust yet.
He's going to be okay.
Maddie, where can people find your work?
Still on PHLY. You can find me over at Broad Street Hockey, just chipping away at it.
All right. That is our AHL correspondent and managing editor of Broad Street Hockey, Madeline Campbell, telling us about the Phantoms and their Calder Cup playoff push. I hope to have you on again and talk about a second round.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
All right. Enjoy the game tonight, Maddie.
Thank you.